Thank you so much for joining us on News Now. And I'm sure that you've also gotten the news. Now, Nigeria's a 17.127 trillion naira 2022 appropriation bill titled Budget of Economic Growth and Sustainability has just been signed by the president. Do you think today's signing was strategic to the economic policies of this administration?
Yes, it was. And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it really was strategic to Nigeria's economic development. I think it came in just in time. Perhaps it could have come slightly earlier, maybe to allow the National Assembly really deliberate over the issues and communicate on time to the executive so there can be robust exchange between these two arms of government. I think that would have enabled a much more deeper discussions, much more reflection, and arguments on both sides for why certain aspects of the budget should be increased or reduced, as it may be. But the real issue is that 2022 is going to be the last full year of this administration. And I suspect that they would want to take it quite seriously, as they have demonstrated by having the bill assented into law today.
All right. The president also signed the Finance Bill 2021. How critical is it towards the execution of the 2022 budget?
So the finance bill has several provisions relating to taxation, relating to the use of money by government agencies. And, this will enable there to be much more clarity in how the fiscals and how the economy of this country is managed by the public sector, and how the private sector can make their inputs as the case may be. I know that, like I said earlier, there is a drive by this administration to, pull out all the stops, as it were, in its execution of its policy. And assenting to that finance bill, making it law, assenting into the appropriation bill and making it law are clear examples of, the policy direction and the thinking behind this present administration. We hope to see a level of sustained execution, if I might add, in this coming fiscal year.
All right, Mr. Kwaga, looking at the breakdown of the budget, it shows that 3.8 trillion naira was allocated for debt servicing. How can we sustain this?
So these figures are extremely worrying. They have been climbing for the past 4 or 5 years, according to our research. And they really spell a lot of uncertainty for the management of the Nigerian economy. Nigerians have been suffering from 13% inflation. GDP growth has not been according to projections. And while oil prices may have climbed, the management of these resources on the behalf of the Nigerian Commonwealth really leaves a lot to be desired. And bringing into the situation the issue of this budget and how it has dedicated this much to debt servicing, even looking at the exchange rate differentials alone, mean that these monies are probably much more than meets the eye. The real problem is how Nigeria intends to raise revenue to cover this growing debt. Nigeria has an extensive plan in capital expenditure, and these are projects that will, if sustained, if implemented properly, will add value to the lives of Nigerians. But when debt servicing is taking out a huge chunk of Nigeria's total revenue, one is at a loss to really think about what will be left for overheads, for recurrent spending, and even for capital expenditure itself. So the issue is for Nigeria to raise revenue. Of course, that's the logical outflow of that question. But the reality is that we are not producing enough. We are not raising enough revenue. Our government isn't really being managed as efficiently as it should. And there are several loopholes in which monies are being frittered away. And there are better, perhaps more integrated, forward-thinking ways that the economy can be revamped to ensure that the federal government actually achieves much more, twice, 3 times more revenue than it currently is.
All right, let's take a look at funding this budget right now. Now, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, earlier in October stated that the budget would be funded by revenues of 6.54 trillion naira and 2.62 trillion naira projected to accrue to the Federation account and the value added tax, which is VAT, respectively. But how will the government be sourcing for the deficit of about 9 trillion?
Yes. So, I mean, these are literally the concerns I raised earlier. How efficient is the taxation process? The spending of the federal government currently on social amenities is mired in darkness and opacity. And I'm speaking specifically to the petrol subsidy and the electricity subsidy. These two aspects of government spending are really, really not clear at all. And Nigerians are, so to say, in the dark as regards how much is actually being spent on their behalf. So with this budget and with these items listed for debt servicing and the capital expenditure and the breakdown of all the other expenditure items, Nigerians really need to know for sure just how well the government intends to not only raise revenue, but plug these loopholes to ensure that Nigerians get value for their money. It's now less a political process and more a governance problem as to how Nigerians can receive the best value for the naira in this fiscal year.
All right, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on News Now. Senior Analyst at BudgIT, Vahyala Kwaga. Thank you.